When you look at the tech industry, there's a massive disconnect happening. Companies are creating incredible products, but completely failing to connect with the humans who need to buy them. What good is revolutionary technology if no one understands its value? Brandon's agency, Forrest discovered this when they created a video for a metals industry. It's not about having the fanciest tech or the most impressive features. It's about understanding what keeps your customers up at night and showing them you get it. But here's where things get interesting for creative professionals. Talent may open doors, but it's humanity that keeps them from slamming shut. In the end, breaking through your value ceiling isn't about what you make. It's about how you make people feel. All right. I genuinely think this is going to be probably the funniest episode we've done, hands down.
Now the pressure's on.
The pressure is on you, Brandon, because I have had enough conversations with you that I end up just like almost peeing my pants laughing, where I'm like, this is going to be great. But also I just think it's going to be fireworks because we're a few episodes in now and I feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
With
you got the good background now. Like
background set. Plus, like, you and I have had so many impromptu, like hour-long conversations around all the stuff we're going to talk about today.
So many.
That this doesn't feel like we're just kind of like this polished episode as much as it's like getting to sit with my friend and talk about it. But what the reality here is, here's what's interesting about you, Brandon. Well, first off, you're from Ohio, right?
I'm from Northeast Ohio.
Yeah. Are you actually a LeBron fan or no?
Yes.
Like,
massive.
You are. So are you like, but you're not a team fan. You're like a LeBron fan.
Like I root for the Cavs. I root for all the Northeast.
So devastating this year.
Yeah, massive bummer. But like whatever, we got one. Like, we're good. Yeah, but the way that I frame it is like everybody has their era. I loved Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan growing up was like all my art projects in school were MJ. But for me, I didn't get to watch him play a lot.
Right.
It was Kobe.
Yeah.
Kobe was like
I did not like Kobe until after. I
was upset. Kobe, my dad took me to see Kobe play the Cavs when Kobe and Shaq were on the Lakers. And it was like, I was like, this is amazing. This is unbelievable. But then 2003, 2004 rolls around. I'm a sophomore, junior. And
in Ohio.
In Northeast Ohio. And I'm in 15 minutes from St. Vincent, St. Mary.
Oh my goodness.
Our high school.
Okay. So those that don't know, that is the high school of LeBron James.
And everybody's talking about this kid, LeBron.
Yeah.
You got to go see him. So I don't even remember how, but when I was a junior, I got to go twice that year to see him play when he was a senior.
Okay.
And it was like...
In high school?
The way that I describe it is this. It was like watching an NBA player play with high school kids. That's how good he was. But this segues into creative stuff.
Okay,
so
go ahead. Well, I've got questions for you anyway in conversation.
I was really into drawing. Do you ever go to like the fair or like Six Flags or something like that and the people that draw the caricatures?
Yeah.
I was obsessed with that. I thought it was the coolest thing as a kid. So I would sit and I would just get, my mom had People magazine. I would draw celebrity caricatures. Well, when LeBron became this massive thing, I drew, before he was drafted by the Cavs, everyone was like, we hope the Cavs get him. I drew this, and I'll send you an image. Maybe you guys can throw it up on the screen on the video. I drew a caricature of LeBron in a Cavs jersey, wearing a crown, holding a scepter, because they were saying he's going to be the king of Cleveland or whatever.
Wow.
And call it prophetic, if you will. My dad came into my bedroom one day while I was sitting there, and he's like, you should send this somewhere. And I was like, where should I send it? Well, at the time, I was obsessed with Slam magazine.
Oh,
Slam magazine became my gateway. Massive.
Yes.
If you're in the basketball world, you just heard me say that, you immediately...
You know. You have cred now.
Unbelievable. So I was like, well, I'm a kid. I'm 16, 17 years old. Like, they're not going to publish my... And my dad was like, how do you know if you don't send it to them?
Yeah.
So I get an edition of Slam magazine. I find the address, the publication address, and I made a copy. Didn't send them the original, but went to the store to make a photocopy because we didn't have scanners at home back then. I make a photocopy of the illustration, and I mail it to Slam with a written letter that I wrote out. My name is Brandon Triola. I'm 16 years old. I live in Northeast Ohio. I think LeBron's going to be. I would love it if you put this in your magazine. Month goes by. Next edition of Slam. I open it. Nothing. Another month goes by. Next edition of Slam. I open it. The October issue. And that year, Carmelo Anthony's on the cover of the magazine because he was getting drafted by the Nuggets. I open it 3 pages in. There's my illustration inside of Slam magazine.
Oh, bro. What happened to you on the inside there?
Well,
what happened?
First of all, I didn't know how to react, but the next day at school, all my basketball buddies found out about it. People were coming up to me in the hallway. It was like my moment. They were... My art teacher was like so proud of me. And it was at that moment when I realized I don't think creativity is a hobby.
Okay.
I think I'm going to do this.
Oh, wow.
It felt so good.
We have a very different high school experience. High school, like, absolutely
That was
deterred
the
me
one
from
good-
all of my creativity.
Well, that was the one good thing that ever happened to me in high school, by the way. Like, other than that, high school sucked. It was terrible. I went to public school, horrible, got terrible grades, got A's in art. That's
Yes.
it. So anyways,
Likewise.
so that was my gateway into like, oh, you can be creative and like, it's a good thing. It's not, I'm not a weirdo. Maybe it's actually cool that I'm like this.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe I actually have some potential. So art has always been the thing that like, while everything else in my life sucks, when I go through seasons where nothing feels like it's working, I can always make something.
Yeah.
And it always just felt
it's always
like,
been a part of your story.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting because it'd be another great conversation for us to go back to like our origins with creativity, because my high school moment is very kind of eye-opening to like my history of like kind of stepping away from it as a career choice, but it's just keeping it as a hobby. But that's another conversation.
Like to set up people that are listening, you and I were both 38.
Yes.
To give context, when we were in high school, you could not be creative as a career. It wasn't a thing.
Oh no, they pulled out the books and were like, you don't make any money.
You're
ever.
either going to go be an accountant, or you're going to be a male nurse, or you're going to come back here and teach at the school. Those were your three options.
Let's get those ambitions high, people.
Yeah, which is great. I'm not dissing any of those things, but I was like, well, I'm screwed in life.
I know, totally. Oh, 100%. I get it entirely. So there's a couple things we're going to dive into. One, we'll talk about niching, because you have a lot to say about niching down. You've got a lot to say about what every tech kind of firm needs to be thinking
can talk about it all,
about human-centered tech design. And then we'll jump into some creative myths, because you've got a book coming out as well that's just, I think, worth every creative listening or reading to. It'll be on audio as well, or just...
I don't know yet.
We'll
I think probably it'll end up on audio, because people are asking for that now. It's like, who reads, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like podcasts. Yeah. So here's one of the things about, Brandon, when I think about you, there's a movie, and I'm probably going to butcher the moment in the movie, but the concept still remains the same.
Okay.
And have you seen World War Z?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a
Brad Pitt, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a very underrated zombie movie, I think. But anyway, there's a scene when when he goes to Israel, and you find out that Israel has preemptively built some kind of defense system to these zombies before anybody else. Of course, before anybody else did. Yeah. Right. And they ask, how did you guys like think so and ahead of the curve to prevent this from occurring here? And they get to this concept of, I think they called it the 11th man or something like that. But it was the idea that if everybody has said yes, the responsibility of the last person is to say no. And there's just this like energy of, hey, if everybody has gone with the current, one of us has a responsibility now to go the opposite direction, just to make sure we're not doing that. Yeah. And I feel like some of the reasons why you and I jive is like, we are that like person that's willing to be like, everybody has said yes. Yeah. We're going to say no.
Or like, look where the crowd's going. I'm out of here.
I'm going to go this other direction. Yeah. Because you have this willingness, even on Instagram, to say things, not in a rude or a blunt way, but you say it in a way that calls out the things that need to be called out for brands, for creatives. Sure. You have this willingness to talk about things that others maybe shy away from because the current is going one direction. They don't want to mess with the status quo. But there's definitely, you have a respect for the industry because you work in it. Yeah. But you don't have I would say you probably have a very much inside of you a willingness to look at the status quo and be like, don't know if we need to be listening to that. So when I take that energy into the 4 things that every tech firm needs, I'm looking to see like, okay, how is Brandon thinking? Because Brandon has a default setting almost that is like, I'm going to think a little bit different than everybody else. Yeah. You guys been doing this for a long time. You're a 7-figure B2B tech brand agency that does brand and marketing for tech companies. How are you guys thinking about this? What are these 4 things that you guys kind of push out that every tech firm needs?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yes.
I love the zombie analogy. Like,
it is a compliment.
We don't want to become zombies.
No, not that part.
So when we started Forrest, it's actually really interesting because what you're describing, it kind of played out in real time. And I would say that my business partner, Nate, like, Nate, he's the same way. We're like, if everybody's doing this, we're not going with the crowd. But here's what happened. So when we started Forrest, we never wanted to start a creative agency. Okay. In fact, even to this day, like we laugh all the time. If you were to say, if my business didn't exist and someone were to come to me and be like, you should start a business, what would you start? Creative agency would probably not be at the top of the list. It's hard. It's hard to do this. Yeah. It's really hard. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of skills. And it takes a lot of late nights and crying and laughter, and there's fun, but like it's hard. So when we started Forrest, what happened was we were working as just a small team, Nate and I, on some of these really big projects with these technology consulting firms. And about a year in, we realized that after working with a bunch of them, there's like, here's the theme. These people are avoiding being human. They're avoiding, from a brand level, from a marketing level, from a product level. It's stiff. It's corporate, isn't even the word to describe it. And so we saw this theme happening, and what we realized two things. One, what we were doing was working, and also what was missing were the same thing. And we were just bringing this human perspective, things that we learned working in B2C, right?
Okay.
Things that we learned working.
Because you have a big history in that space. We didn't even dive into that. Like helping push out personal brands for a lot of these well-known authors.
Yeah.
You have a history with that.
Yeah. So I was helping people create personal brands before, like now it's a thing, right?
Yeah.
There's courses, like nobody was doing that. We were just, so in the personal development space, if you want to write a book, become an author, or build like any kind of coaching thing, you have to build a brand.
Right.
So back in the day, if you were a successful author, you're not going to make all your money on books. You're going to make all your money on your blog, your website. And so that's the kind of stuff we were doing. So when we started Forrest, we just brought some of that thinking, like here's how you empathize with people in messaging. Here's how you tell a story that makes it clear what you do. And nobody in tech, even still to this day, like the bar is very low for being human and standing out and storytelling. So that's what we just started doing.
So when you say human-centered, storytelling, empathetic, how does that work out when you talk to them? What do you say to them that they all of a sudden are like, they get it now?
Well, yeah.
What's the transition point?
How do we sell a hardware asset management offering to hardware asset managers in hospitals? These are the people that are managing think about all the laptops. Think about all the devices that 6,000 hospital employees have. There's somebody sitting in an office that hates their job. That's a hardware asset manager. And they're in charge of managing all the hard assets.
Yeah.
So when these tech companies build a platform or an integration that helps them do that easy, they have no idea how to talk to the hardware asset manager.
Okay.
So it's like, well, one, we're not experts on hardware asset management.
Right.
But when you understand the human level, well, what's keeping that hardware asset manager up at night?
Yeah.
What do they really care about?
Yeah.
Where are they not feeling seen? And just weaving that into talking about how that product is going to help them get where they want to go. It's like revolutionary.
Because you're trying to tie, it seems like, that the product is worthwhile, that it actually can help this this asset manager.
Yeah.
But the reason that it's not being utilized is because it's a great product.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the right kind of pathway in, which we would talk about that. You and I would probably agree on the idea that is kind of the power of leveraging brand, is when you have this great product that would otherwise be kind of unnoticeable, forgotten, and wouldn't convert to the right people. And so there's a pathway to that. And you're saying, if you can get out of just loving your product and into kind of understanding the person. Am I following where you're trying to talk?
100%. And here's where it's different in B2B, right?
Okay.
So in B2C, like your audience is like an avatar of a person that you're selling to. If you're selling high-end organic soap, right? You know that you're going to be selling to Jenny, who's 40 and maybe has dreadlocks like my wife, right?
Like, are we describing your wife?
Yeah,
right
like,
now?
and she's really into clean stuff, and she's not going to shop at Walmart or the grocery store. She's going to look for a boutique organic soap. So you have an avatar, and now you can get inside that person's head easily and understand them and create messaging that invites them into a narrative where now you're telling this emotional story, and like that brand can blow up, and you can. But with B2B, it's different because there's always like 5 different people that have to make the decision. So when you create a campaign, you're not just creating a campaign for one, you have to create it for 5. So one of the things that we developed was this thing called a story script, which is literally a script, a messaging script that talks and invites each of those different people into a similar but different story based off what their pain is. Because the CFO has a different pain than the hardware asset manager, and the CEO has a different pain, and all of these people are going to buy together. So that's what makes B2B so freaking hard.
But you're saying there's some kind of cohesiveness to the story, but you have a different, like, it's like almost like you're taking it.
It's layers.
Yeah, it's layers to like segmenting out, like and how do we talk to the CFO? Because if we talk to them, they're all these components come together. But that means which I know these things, but I'm saying them out loud because I think it's really important. Like, I know these things that you do because I hear you say them. So I don't want to act like I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know insight into Brandon's company. Like, I know what you guys are doing. And so I'm not trying to play like, oh my gosh, I pulled this out of thin air. But you guys then are actually kind of looking at it like an engine. There's something different about your approach that you're like, there's these elements, which I jive with. It's not simply going, all right, have you guys thrown a good logo on here and designed a good logo and designed a good website? You guys have, we jive in that like holistic kind of perspective, looking at it. But you have this kind of engine. I've seen these kind of matrix that you guys have that feels like that fits into that matrix a bit.
Yeah. So there's this. So we developed this thing called a value loop, and we can get into this a little bit. We're getting a little bit technical here.
It's good.
I just want to say too, I'm not a marketing guy. I am, but I say that like maybe I probably shouldn't say that. Maybe I'm telling myself a story that I shouldn't say.
Yeah, there you go.
But I don't come from that world.
Right.
I come from like being creative and like how do you make a brand stand out and how do you find a brand's essence? And then the rude awakening that I had in tech was like nobody cares about that. Nobody values that, and they see it as fluff. It's not, but
which is so great. I love that you're calling that out in this because I think so many people get a lofty idea of all of it and they don't realize they get to the conversation when like, which I've had those conversations too, where you're like, the person goes, I don't think it really matters. And you're like, oh, you're like, okay.
It's equal parts that they don't, I'll say it's a small pinch. It's like a 3-part recipe. Small pinch of, I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Little bit bigger pinch of, I don't understand it. And then mainly I can't see the value.
Right.
Because think about in B2B, everybody's constantly getting analyzed, reviewed, and measured. And if you do things that don't make the company money or that don't help the company grow, it becomes a... And so when a creative comes and says, oh, if we just elevated your brand and did this and like doubled down around this essence of who you are, like it would make you stand out. And they're like, how does that help me make money?
Right.
How does that help me avoid
Which is
getting
such
fired?
a good exercise for every brand strategist, every brand designer to get in that conversation already. Like if you're not, I think you and I have even talked about this.
Yeah.
If you are not having that conversation, you will be eliminated in the next X amount of time. Who knows what it is? Like if you're simply going only saying, I design things that look good.
Yeah.
That was enough before. I don't think it's enough anymore.
You won't be eliminated, I think. I think you're right. I think some will, but I think that you'll just stay under what I call the value ceiling.
Okay,
where
fair enough.
The market's perception of you, like you'll just have to work with companies that only value aesthetic.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Or the cosmetic side of it.
So what's the value loop thing that you talked about?
So the value loop. Let me bring it back to tell you to start with the whole cohesive picture. Okay. So what we realize in B2B tech is most technology companies, mid-size, enterprise, there's a range, right? You've got small, you've got mid, you've got commercial enterprise. A lot of the smaller to mid-size technology companies, marketing doesn't work for them. If you ask them, how's your marketing going? 9 out of 10 are going to be like, it's not, we don't really do any, it's terrible. They're sales heavy organizations. So everything is about going to events, getting person to person. When you even think about digital marketing, but there's problems with that because it limits them for what they can do. It limits them with how they generate leads. There's a cap that like they can only do so much. So a lot of companies come to us and they say, we are tapped out with what we can do with our partners. Like
totally.
they get all their leads from their partners, right? Or for their technology partner or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's only so much you can do. So we
fished the pond, baby. We've fished it.
We've got all the fish out of it. But they don't know where to start or what to do. So in B2B tech, there's this statistic that we use often, and it's the 95-5 rule.
Okay.
And the 95-5 rule is basically 95% of buyers at any given time are not in market to buy what you're selling. This is important. Only 5% are. And of those 5%, those people will only spend 5% of their time with your sales team. So here's where the problem lies. Marketing is focused most in B2B tech on only reaching that 5%.
Okay.
All of the activities, we're going to events to find people that want to book a demo now. We're going to do activities. We're going to buy a list online and we're going to spam email them, hoping that somebody's ready to get on a call and they're in market for this.
Yeah.
But that number's so low that when all of your resources go towards that, it's really hard to show a return on that. So they either stop doing marketing altogether or it's just a failure. So what we realized is you have to meet your buyer across all of the stages of the buying journey where they're at. And I won't get into those right now because I don't want this to become like a marketing, like B2B tech marketing, because honestly, can be very boring even for me, right? Like it is what
but
it
you
is.
understand it. There's a science to it.
And it's the human thing, right? When you understand where your buyer's at in the journey, now it's not a one size fits all. Now you can build an approach. But in B2B tech, what we realized was if you create a value loop, which is things like podcasts, content, do all of the things that you need to do, but not just shoot everything out there like a shotgun. Build a system where the people that you're trying to reach are seeing the right content at the right time based on where they're at in the buying journey. It's like this unbelievable thing happens where, one, they start engaging with your brand while they're not ready to buy, which is really valuable. And it's valuable because McKinsey, or I think Forbes, somebody came out with a statistic that B2B buyers will choose 75% of the time when they're ready to buy, they will choose the brand they remember.
Bro, that is so...
Isn't that crazy?
So crazy. But it's like, in that, what led to them remembering? Like, what are the elements? Like, that's what I want to deep dive into that report. Where I'm like, asking these people, like, what does it mean that you remembered? Was it that you, like you're saying, like, was it that you saw one of these value system moments? Was it that the visuals actually arrested you in a way? Was the language? And I think it's all of it, right? It's not one thing like that.
It's the value loop. It's all of it.
It's all of it.
It's all part of it. And then when you know where they are, so the other element of what we do is we use an AI powered targeting platform. And this sounds so nerdy. I'm like, we're getting galactic on you guys. But so in B2B, everything is about building lists and going after those lists. So let's just say you sell a Microsoft implementation. You typically need to, like, if you're going to do effective marketing, you can't just start being like, we do Microsoft stuff. You actually find target companies that you want to go after. And let's just say it's 150 of these companies, and we've identified they're like, they're the right company.
I just want to say, like, I want to say, I'm not trying to interrupt your flow here, but like the way you're thinking and saying out loud, it may not apply to every industry specifically, but what I love about it in our conversations is it makes everybody elevate their game and how they're thinking about it. If you're not even at least engaging with that thought, like going, okay, do I just do this, or do I just do a microphone? It's so important. So I'm trying to pull out these moments where to take what you do in B2B tech to make sure people are understanding this way of thinking doesn't just apply there, though it may not be apples to apples. There is some methodology takeaway that you can go like, all right, are we thinking this robustly about our customer? Are we thinking this in depth? So they're building this list. You're saying, don't just shout to them. Go from there. Okay.
So I won't talk a lot about the target list thing because it's very technical, but like, you basically want to make sure that you're going after the right people. And that's this is where a lot of marketing falls down. For example, right now, what most people do is they buy a list and then legally you're not even really allowed to start emailing those people.
I know.
And we call it spam marketing. We've had companies come to us and be like, marketing's not working. Marketing's a joke. And we're like, well, tell us what you're doing. That's not working. Well, we bought the list and nobody's clicking through when we email them. I'm like, oh, you're spamming everybody. That's not marketing.
It's not marketing.
So we use an AI tool to basically find what are called exographics. I told you I was getting galactic on you.
Let's go, bro.
I won't even explain
We just talked. We are hitting a different.
And what that does is it enables us to help our clients find more accurate right fit buyers so that when we do the outreach or the campaign, it resonates on such a deeper level that even if they're not ready to buy, they're going to opt in, they're going to stay engaged. And now you're going to get the brand awareness play. But I'll talk about something that connects because here's what we've learned, and this is where the B2C and the B2B thing overlap. This is what's really important. The value loop, when we create that for generating demand, works best when a brand has a strategic narrative.
Makes
when
sense.
there's something about your company that challenges the status quo of an industry or is wildly different and wildly more valuable than what everybody else is doing. And when we can get under the hood
and challenging the status quo, wildly different than what others are doing. What was the other thing you said?
Challenging the status quo, wildly different than what people are doing, or wildly more valuable on like a unit economics level. Like our thing generates 25% more X than all these other competitors, like with less effort and less cost. Boom. Where that's important is because in B2C, as you guys understand, building a brand that stands for something and has a purpose is really, really powerful and important. And I call it the 5th P of marketing, actually. I wrote an article about this 2 years ago. So people are starting to say this now, but like marketing now has a 5th P in its purpose. So in the B2B world, that translates into that strategic narrative. So how do we find out what that is? And when a B2B brand has a strategic narrative and has a value loop and has the right execution and the right strategy, demand is so much easier to generate. You can generate, pipeline is so much easier to generate. Getting your people on calls with people ready to buy is so much easier to do. The costs go down to do all of it. Like, it's crazy.
And that's the part where I think in the brand conversation where we see people go like, oh, but that's not the biggest part of our company. It's strategic narrative. We can bypass that. It's like, I think about it oftentimes, like branding has so many moments where things are small enough to feel like they're salt.
Yeah.
Where it's like, without it, you notice. With it, you notice. Is it the biggest ingredient? No.
Yeah.
No. Like, I make biscuits all the time for my kids on the weekends.
Yeah.
Salt is not the biggest ingredient, but when salt is gone, you know it's gone.
And what is the salt, I would say, in B2B? It's emotion.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to put emotion in to B2B for multiple reasons. One, it's very risk averse industries. They're afraid. If I tell a joke on my LinkedIn post, I can get fired for that, or I can get the company. Yeah,
that's kind of the psychology of it all.
So a couple years ago, here's an area where I've changed my mind actually on this. I wrote a comparison article about Liquid Death. Love Liquid Death. Yeah. Love what they're doing in B2C. In fact, if you sell to customers, if you're in B2C, take a page out of their freaking playbook.
Yeah. Go look at what they're doing.
And I made the comparison.
Which is the darling of every marketing. Like, go look at Liquid Death.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, I'm not going to bash it. But in B2B, I actually thought, if B2B companies just did more of what Liquid Death is doing, then everything would be. Well, I've since changed my mind because 5 years in B2B, like I said, they're highly regulated spaces like healthcare, legal, risk management, all these things. Technology, it's highly regulated. And with AI, it's only going to become more regulated. So if you try to do something like Liquid Death and you're at a big tech company, or let's just say as a brand strategist, I come and pitch a big tech company. I'm like, we're going to do something like Liquid Death. You're going to lick someone's back. You're going to lick salt off their sweat off their back. And guess what? It would go viral. But guess what? It would never make it out because the chief risk officer would flag the campaign and you'd be like, you can't do this. We're putting the company at risk. So what it does is for your creativity, it puts a tighter constraint on what you're able to do, which can be freeing because now you have less sandbox. We've got to come up with something that has that salt.
Yeah. It's like creativity flourishes in limitation, not stifled by it.
Yeah. We did a campaign. This is one of the things I'm most proud of because it wasn't like a massive thing, but a technology consulting company that sells ERP systems for metals companies came to us.
What?
Right, I know.
I love it.
We're not selling seltzer water, bro.
No. This is not the latest hydration packet.
Enterprise resource planning. Jordan, ask Jordan about this later if he's on here. But enterprise resource planning is a whole thing. Yeah. And there's this technology has been around for a long time, and now there's companies that are innovating, and they're using AI and they're using digital. But just think, I'll use the.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So just think legacy company, everything's done on an on-prem.
People are scared of how their job's gonna change, like what's gonna change because of all these things. There's these like tried and true, worked there for ages. Yeah. But okay, I know what you're talking about.
So I'll tie it all together with the human-centered thing. This is our P. This is our purpose. It's like just humanity and bringing humanity into what we do. So we found out, what are these metals companies at a human level, what are they really afraid of? And what we realized, and it's different for all of them, metals companies, 10 million and up, are family-owned mostly. Okay. It's some guy in his 60s who got the company from his dad, And the thing that they're scared about is they're trying to figure out, how do I retire and hand this thing over to the 38-year-old son and leave him in a good spot? And that's what they're scared of.
That's what they're scared of, yeah.
Technology is scary, not because they're necessarily afraid of losing business. They're afraid of setting the next generation up with something that they don't understand. And so when we understood that, boom, now we can create the narrative and we're not being manipulative. So this client of ours was having a hard time breaking into this industry. Okay. This industry association, massive association over all of metals, right? Okay. So our job was to find a way to like break them into it. Yeah. So we found out that they had access to thousands of these because they pay to be a part of the association. It's almost like they could get their stuff on the newsletter of the association for like no cost. So we said, we're going to do a video, the likes of which people in metals have never seen before. Right. And we're just going to tell a simple.
Again, back to like, everybody has done this. We're going to go do this.
And we did it like super under budget. Like we didn't hire a film crew or anything. But we wrote a script of human-centered, just told a story, wrote a script. I think it's a 2-minute video. And it went over so well. It was such a success that the association saw it and said, we're not only going to share this with the list, we think that everybody in metals needs to see this. And they sent it out to everybody. And so it was like this wildfire moment for this client who before this, no one knew who they were. And they were new. Now everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
And so
through a creative asset that you guys did, strategic narrative, like if people could see that in the moment, it's like they broke in because they partnered with the right kind of creative thinking.
And the video showed a dad and his son and them like on the shop floor and there's sparks flying. And it's like, it talked about, we know that you're afraid of, and like, how are you going to set the next generation up? And what it did was it just resonated on a human level with everybody. And then at the end of the video, it talked about their offerings and their products, the technical side of it. Yeah. So,
and it just lands. And it
just landed. And
but I think brands don't think like that. I think I think that's such a critical component of expanding into your market or breaking into a new market, is understanding that the human component is what's going to be kind of like the gateway in. Yeah. Versus going, how do I break in? Let's just constantly talk about our product. Yeah. No, I think you actually got to target a little bit. So let's dive into a little bit of niching, but I want you to do the work of niching and then tell me into Save the Creatives, Talent-ish book.
Yeah, dude.
You're going to go into that.
So take us from 8 minutes. Let's go.
Take us from niching, some thoughts on niching, then into Save the Creatives, which could lead us into just crushing some creative myths.
You're about to see how fast I can talk, everybody.
Bro, we're good. We're good on time. We're fine. So go, hit me with those things, because I feel like we kind of touched the 4 things every tech firm needs. We touched a little bit. Was there anything in there that we missed? I
would just say, if you're a technology company and you're listening to this, we have a ton of resources at forrest-co.com or forrest.co, actually forrest.co. Go there. There's all kinds of stuff where you can learn and get in touch with us if you want to talk. Like,
there's like pipeline, there's lead gen, there's brand strategy, there's creative as a service.
And stuff. Yeah, there's all that. There's all kinds of stuff there, and we've tried to build it like a resource hub for people that want to learn some of this stuff on their own. If you want to work with us, there's a way to get in touch on there.
Yeah, great. So they can jump into that. So niching, talent-ish, creative myths, your book. Let's go. Yeah, niching. Dude. I'm going to put up the flag and just resist you just for the sake of the conversation. Go. I don't need to niche. My product works for everybody.
Yeah. So you're right. If that's true, then you don't need to niche. But is that happening? I would say, is your product working for everybody?
I love it.
So when you go, right? Then there you go. I'd be like, okay, then you don't need to niche. You make iPhones.
But even the iPhone isn't for everybody.
Should be.
Yeah. I'm like, in our conversation.
Don't bring your Android into my group text,
dude. Once that thing goes green, I'm mad. I'm like, dang it, who's in here? Who invited this guy?
100%.
Okay, so but the idea that a person thinks that they don't have to niche, like that they don't even go down the exercise, like it doesn't even cross their mind. Let's go down that route. It doesn't even cross their mind to think about niching. What are your first kind of like conversational moments at coffee where they're like, I don't think I need to niche. I've never really explored niching down. I think I sell X, Y, and Z. I don't need to niche much.
Yeah. If you're already there and you're doing good and you don't need to, I would say like, then it's not even worth talking about. But in the context of creative professionals, it's definitely something that everybody should think about and consider. So if you're doing good and you're making money and you've got a good thing going, why? I would say no. But like, if you're stuck and you feel like I've called this thing the value ceiling.
Okay.
Every creative service professional hits it at some point. And the value ceiling just limits the amount of money you're able to make as a creative. Okay. So you're going to hit that limit. So if you want to break through that, one way that you can break through is to niche, because when you niche, you can charge more for what you do. You'll be seen as a specialist in that area. Yeah. And you can charge more for what you do. Yeah. You can have less clients and charge more money. So there's less stress in niching. So the benefits, like there's books about this that people have written long before me. But I discovered niching because when we started Forrest, I did not want to be I refused to be a commodity.
Again, everybody's going this way.
I refuse.
You're going to go this way. The common thread here.
So I would say to anyone, if you're thinking about even starting a creative business, just know you're walking into a room with let's just say red hats, because you're wearing a red hat. That's like saying, I'm going to wear a red hat into this room and I'm really excited about it. You're going into a room with a billion red hats on already. Everyone else is, there's so many creative agencies.
Yeah.
I could close my eyes in Middle Tennessee and pick one, and they're going to be great. They're going to be awesome.
And the thing is, they're going to be good.
They're all going to be good. But with AI now, talent is a commodity. And it's only going to become more of a commodity. If somebody comes to me and says, I've been doing logo design for 10 years and I'm really good at it and I charge $5,000, I can now either use AI, which I wouldn't, or I can go find somebody online that does it for $50, and subjectively it's not going to be as good, but as a client, I don't know what's good anyway.
Yeah, right. Totally.
So now talent is being commoditized.
Yeah.
So one way that you can decommoditize is pick an industry, a market, a sub-market, a skill. It doesn't have to be a market. You could niche around logo design, for example. It's going to be hard because there's a lot of people already doing it.
Yeah.
So when you say niche, a lot of people are averse to that word because they think, oh, I don't want to become a creative professional that's just great at landing pages in healthcare. But if you're really good at it and you can build landing pages that convert at 10x above industry standard, guess what? Now you can charge $2,500 per landing page, $5,000 per landing page, because you've specialized in that industry and you understand. So when Forrest started, we were like, we're doing this. We already had momentum. We had a ton of clients. We already had money coming in. And Nate and I were like, we're not just going to be an everything to everybody. We refuse. And the way that we found our niche, and the way that I tell people to find your niche, is don't just pick one, but look at where you're having success already. Right. Look at the themes and the similarities of the kinds of companies that are,
which only happens when you're in the game.
You got to get in the game.
Like this isn't going to happen when you decided one day, you're like, I have no experience doing anything. I'm just going to do that.
So
it could work that way. I'm sure there is stories like that for sure.
And to my point, there's a timing to niche. Yeah. It's hard to start and say, tomorrow I will start a company and we will specialize in faucets for whatever. I'm just making something.
Apartment complexes being built in X state.
Yeah. So we realized, okay, now's the time. And what happened was we had 5 clients in B2B tech. And 2 that were not in B2B tech. Okay. But we were seeing the clients that were seeing the most success were the B2B tech clients. We were like, that's interesting. We also, just good business economics, there's more money in B2B tech. They have bigger budgets. And the need was massive for what we do. Like I said, that lack of humanity.
I think you glossed over that really quickly, but I think a lot of creatives I know have no idea the budgets of the industries they're trying to serve.
It's crazy.
So all of a sudden they're like, I'm not getting any traction. I'm like, because they have all you serve is nonprofits. Yeah. Like, I'm so sorry.
Or you get really into, or like I use this as an example, you get really into like food and beverage space because you develop a style and an aesthetic as like a photographer or a writer or a designer and you crush that. Yeah. But then you just like, that kind of becomes your niche, but you haven't realized that they don't pay that much. Yeah. This happened to me when I moved here with the music industry. I was like, I'm going to do album art. Yeah. $50 for an album cover design. I was like, I quickly realized I'm not going to make money.
Yeah, the market is, there's no money in the market. And I think it's not always the case, but I think it's still what we're trying to do in this conversation is get people to elevate their thinking, is to look at brand differently, to understand that you've got to look at this. If you're going to work as a creative in this space, you've got to think about what are the budgets of the markets I'm actually trying to serve, and do they have that resource? I remember even our team, when we're thinking about how are we kind of pushing into the spaces we want to, as an agency, how do we want to push into things? And Joel and I, who's a counterpart to all awesome dude. He's in the room. So we're going to talk about him without looking at him. But like our conversations are like, do we go startups? And Joel's all like, no, we don't. And it was just this clear, beautiful moment where Joel's like, no, because here's what the market's budget has. And it doesn't have it. We can't do that if we want to do this. I don't think people are having those conversations. Not that they always need to be the driver, but they need to be in the conversation at least. And so us looking at that,
we got to do a bunch of work and just find out where you're having success and what makes the best sense to help you grow as a business. And it might be a weird niche that's not. I'll tell one more story. There's a girl that I met. I came and spoke as a guest speaker on a brand strategy boot camp. Okay. And this girl's name was Zoe, and they were getting ready to like finish up this brand strategy boot camp. Talented designer, graphic designer. And she realized that she had a lot of success with these clients in the climate space. And so she built a creative business, and it's crushing it to this day, designing pitch decks for climate startups.
Interesting.
She niched the crap out of what she does. Yeah. And she's getting featured on podcasts. She's helping people raise money. She's charging a premium for what she does because she realized, well, everybody's just trying to be a generic graphic designer or a brand designer. I'm going to take my skill and pick a lane where I can grow and have a ton of success. But there's nobody else playing here.
Yeah, this is blue ocean
That's
right now.
That's the power of niching.
Yeah, but I think
I'm spinning all over the place.
but I think again, a valid point there is that's the power of niching inside of someone who's already in the game.
Yes.
Like seeing what they're doing. Get in the game, try out, find things. See what works, what doesn't work. I'm never going to go to that industry because though it's there, I hate every second of it.
Yeah.
You got to figure that out. Like for us, even one of the ways that we're kind of filtering the market for working with us is qualitative. Like going, do you think like this? If you don't think like this, we are not a good partner for you.
100%.
If you think like this,
which is a really good way to start.
We are a great partner for you.
Yeah.
But if you think X, Y, and Z, and you don't want to have unconventional risk-taking disruption thoughts, and you want to kind of keep things as a status quo and keep them smooth, don't pick us.
Love it.
We are absolutely going to ask the hard questions. We're going to we had a company who wanted to work with us. We had a discovery call with them, whatever you call it. We had a call with them, and in the conversation, we're watching them not know what is going on, and it's a fun conversation to watch.
Which is why they called you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
totally. And at some point, they're like, we don't know where we're going, whether that's true or not. Someone said it. Well, then we respond with a document that was crafted in another space that took from working with startups and venture funds and going, this document that helps you solidify some of those things, we're going to send that to you because if you can't answer these questions, there's no way you're going to work with us.
Yeah.
Not even because you won't choose us. We're not going to choose you. Like you're not a right fit. So I think niching also lets you understand like fit and if you can
100%.
work well with each other. All right. So you got a book.
Save the Creatives.
Save the Creatives. Is that the title of the book?
That's the title of the book.
So it changed.
I changed the title.
This is news, breaking news right here.
I know.
I saw the cover. It was talentish. Now it's not.
Changed it.
Save the Creatives.
The plot of the book is the talent is now a commodity, which is why I was originally going to call it Talentish. Okay. And then my editor, who's like a professional book editor, she works with publishing companies. At the end of the editing process, she's phenomenal, by the way. I was like, I have a question. I need you to shoot me straight. I think I should change the title. And she was like, I think you should too. And I was like, great. So that's why we just chose Save the Creatives because it's just a clear, like that's the promise of the book.
It's much clearer.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie with you and say like, that's the other one's better than that.
I'm mad that you didn't tell me in the first.
Well, sometimes you don't know like what's the umbrella name. Like people want to keep things as this or that. Yeah. Bro, naming is so fun and so frustrating.
And I was gonna call it Talentish because, to be totally honest and transparent, I've never been the most talented. I've always.
Bro, I'm not the most talented. It's like not even like a question. It's not even close.
And the irony of the book is, I started writing the book because I started having levels of success as a creative that I never thought I would have.
Yeah.
But then I'm watching right now in real time, some of the most talented creative people I've ever met are struggling to make any money.
Right.
Like people with hundreds of thousands of followers.
Yeah. And have worked with big names.
Yes. And I'm going, okay, talent isn't the recipe.
No.
You can be talentish and crush it. So that was why I was going to call it that.
I see where you're going with that.
But it was still too inside my brain.
Yeah.
And again, it's got to be about your audience.
Right.
Everything has to be about helping them go from A to B. So
I think Save the Creatives lands really, really well.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
So what are the myths that you're talking about in this book? Like, what are we crushing right now? Let's rapid fire these things.
Well, okay, go. Sorry.
No, you go. Like,
I thought you were
go.
going to keep going.
No, I want to hear them. Boom, myths.
The first myth is that more talent is how you get more successful. And it couldn't be further from the truth.
I love it. It's so true.
Couldn't be further from the truth. You can spend
Don't buy the course. Don't buy the course. Don't buy the course.
Well, yeah.
I'm just messing up.
We are inundated in the creative world right now with courses, conferences, college, even
totally.
All of these things that you should spend your money on that are going to help you become a better photographer. They're going to help you become a better writer, a better designer. Mm-hmm. And that stuff is important.
Yes,
but the hard skill, getting good at the hard skill, if that were true, all of the musicians I know that live in a 10-mile radius would have Grammys.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Right?
Like we live in Middle Tennessee, right outside of Nashville, and you can go to a restaurant, like throw a rock at a live music night, and those musicians are incredible. Like top tier.
Unbelievable. Some of my best friends, like Nate, like my business partner, he could be a drummer in any band.
Yeah. But the reality is like talent alone isn't the recipe.
Yeah.
We're not bashing courses. We're not saying you can get your skill set. I know I was tongue in cheek there, but you should go develop your skill. If you're not good enough yet, go get better, because that's a real thing. You and I have looked at portfolio work and been like, just not good enough. You got to get better. Go work on your craft.
Or vice versa. The work is unbelievable, but you're horrible to work with.
Oh,
so, creatives.
Bro.
you're a disaster and a nightmare at getting stuff done. You have an ego that is bigger than your portfolio. These are the things that hold creatives back. It's not.
It's so true.
It's not talent.
Yeah.
And here's another myth.
Not. Yeah.
Which I love because the title of the book is Save the Creatives. Another myth is AI is the enemy. That's not the enemy.
Yeah. Nope.
AI is not the enemy.
I love it.
The enemy is the value ceiling that I talked about. And it is this invisible layer that holds creative professionals back from making more money, making more impact, having that abundance. And so one of the things that at the start of the book that I'm excited about is it's kind of a self-help book for creative people. But the promise of the book is this is the only book that I've come across, which is why I wanted to write it, because the book didn't exist that I needed.
Yeah.
This is the only book that I've come across that can help creative services professionals of all kinds 10 to 100x their value in the marketplace.
Wow.
So how much you can charge, how much of a raise you can get, how much you can make, how valuable the market can perceive you as. It's like a blueprint for increasing your value, not just like the value of the thing that you do. And so that's why it's taken me 2 years to write. That's the bold, audacious promise of the book. Like if you read it and put these things into practice, you will at a minimum 10x your value. And I say this as a guy with no degree, no college degree. I have no silver spoon. I have a plastic spoon that I started with. Not the most talented, no Behance account. I have no Behance.
You can't find you on Dribble.
Right?
No.
You can't. I got a couple likes on there.
Yeah.
And so what excites me is there's some data and there's studies in the book. Creative people are going to only become more in demand. And if you give in to what's happening with AI and you go into a corner and you shy away, you're going to hold the world back and these businesses back from what's actually needed. Like, think about this. Businesses need this. They need what you guys are doing at Harbor and Union.
Yeah.
Some of them are in this building.
Yeah.
They need it. But if you guys, if us as creatives, if we don't step up and succeed, they can't.
Right.
They can't grow. They can't shine. They can't stand out. They can't find what that fifth P is for them. So I believe that creatives are the linchpin to the next era of everything that's going to need to happen, especially with AI. The demand for us is only going to become more and more. And if we don't level up, then in the industries, not
if there
industry,
was one course to get right now, it would be how do I get better at AI? Like, how do I even use it better? How do I understand it better? How do I get into Midjourney and get what it means on how do I
use this tool not to replace me but to augment what I do and make me more valuable?
For example, like I had a pitch that I had to do, but I needed a campaign picture for that. I knew I didn't have the time nor the resources,
or it didn't exist.
I'm like, well, I'm going to create this for this pitch and only for this pitch to mood board it essentially, and go instead of grabbing all the images from other people's work, I'm going to mood board an image from this and create it. And now I've got this conversation with this football compression company that's doing all these interesting things with football compression gear. But I pitched them a campaign and idea for their brand. But I used that not as the whole entirety of the project, but because I was able to go, all right, instead of mood boarding it out with other people's work, I'll mood board it out if we were doing a campaign with them and then use it like that.
And it's so much faster. There's other ways too. I think for creative people, one of the best ways is use it in how you sell your creative work or use it in how you do some of the administrative stuff. So for example, like if I were to want to create some content after this podcast, give me the transcript, I'm going to upload it, give me an outline to start with for how I can create some posts. You're not replacing anybody. And now maybe I'll use a writer to really humanize it, give them that as a starting point. There's so many ways to use creativity for creative people that aren't like, make me an image or an ad with this text on it. And that's where that's another myth that people are thinking like, oh, it's just going to replace the implementation work. No, it's just going to augment. But if you sit and you're afraid of it, you'll become prideful. You'll become resentful. You'll become like this angry creative. And don't be an angry creative.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Bro, love it, man. When does it come out?
Right now, I've been saying.
We're putting you on the line right here.
So hold on, I have to actually look because I just uploaded all the information to the actual publishing when it goes live, and I have to check. I want to say it will definitely be available for pre-order June 20.
Okay, June 20 pre-order. June 20. This might come out after June 20, so we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm hustling on it though. So
this podcast, I'm saying this podcast might come out after June 20. So if the podcast comes out after June 20, the book is live.
Yep, just BrandonTriola.com/book. I don't even have like a cool URL for it yet. I'll probably get Save the Creatives.
You didn't get Save the Creatives?
Well, SaveTheCreatives.com is taken, so I'm going to try to see if I can get a .book. Yeah.
Well, Brandon, thanks for the conversation, bro.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.